One day, I was working on this bass part. 3 notes, repeats. Pretty basic stuff, kind of bored with it. I was looking for something that needed to make this thing interesting.
Is Satan rampant in rock? To some, the answer is obvious. Skull-headed monsters and demon-like figures are probably the most blatant. And there is the number 666, also known as the mark of the beast, the symbol belonging to the Antichrist, who, the Bible tells us, is Satan.
I'm a moth, and that's a really big fucking flame. I was playing around with one of my favorite synths called Harmor. It's made by ImageLine. And one of my favorite little things with Harmor is that you can take an image, any image, load it into the synthesizer, and it starts to generate characteristics of that image across the frequency spectrum. So essentially what you're able to do is insert an image into a wave file, but you need a spectrograph to be able to see it, right? So I found this picture of the number 6, and I put it over the bass part. Now, I don't know if you've noticed, but there's a big problem with that there, is that we've got this big giant gap in the middle. So I grabbed Harmor again, and I made another interesting bass using this really interesting image I found on the internet of a star, but it was kind of upside down. Now, at this point, I'm giggling like a child. So much so that Jess, my wife, actually heard the giggling. She came in and she said, "What on earth are you doing?" And she snapped at me at this moment where I had this really childish kind of look on my face. Now, of course, it's a bit of fun, right? You gotta have fun on these projects. But don't worry, I did the thing that any responsible composer would do. I saved it, I put it into Wise, I put it into the game, and I sent it off. And I didn't tell anybody about it. What's the worst that can happen, right? I mean, for anybody to see that, they'd have to crack open the game, pull out the Wise files, and run every single file through a spectrograph and find that single bass part. It's never going to happen, right?
So it doesn't get any clearer than that with all the pentagrams and the 666 right there. They're letting you know, here's our allegiance to Satan, and your children are listening to this.
But wait, there's more. I was working on this drone sound. Pretty horrible, pretty nasty drone sound. Now, if anybody's curious, the way I made this drone sound was by bowed guitar. Everything you're hearing there is bowed guitar. I'm bowing a guitar between C sharp and D, and I've spread that out across 4 octaves. And all I'm doing is just slowly bowing between those 2 notes. And I recorded that a whole bunch of different times and layered it on top of each other. And when you do that, that's the kind of sound you get. It's really, really quite a cool thing. Again, it's kind of using guitars in an interesting way to get that horror thing across. Now, I had this idea one day that I wonder if I can hide a message in there somehow. What happens if I put something in the center and then took a little bit of information from one side of the channel and put that into the other side of the channel and then flip the phase? And what happens is if somebody listens back to that in mono, they get this. So literally there, that's exactly the same sound I just played before, but played back in mono. And what's that all about?
Government investigation has found subliminal messages on certain albums when played in reverse.
Ah. So what happens if we play that in reverse? Now, do you know how many news websites wrote about that one? Friggin' none!